There is a hidden set of laws running everything around you, and no one is telling you the truth. You aren't losing because you lack talent. You're losing because you're playing a game where the rules were changed behind your back. This isn't about motivation. It's not even about hard work. It's a cold reality. There is an unspoken code behind every negotiation, every promotion, and every power move. And if you've never been taught it, do you even want to know? For 500 years, history has painted a portrait of a monster, Niccolò Machiavelli, a name that has become shorthand for betrayal, cold-blooded calculation, and the darkest corners of the human soul. We are taught to fear him. We are told to keep his books on the restricted shelf, as if the mere act of reading them might stain our character. But history is written by those who want to keep you in the dark. The truth is far simpler and far more uncomfortable. Machiavelli didn't invent the darkness. He just turned on the lights. Think of the man, not the myth. Picture a man who had everything: power, status, the ear of the elite, and lost it all in a single afternoon. He was tortured. He was exiled. He was stripped of his freedom and left to rot in a small room on the outskirts of Florence. He didn't sit down to write The Prince because he wanted to build an empire of evil. He wrote it because he was a man who had seen the gears of the world turning from the inside, and then felt those same gears crush him when he stopped playing the game. The Prince isn't a manual for villains. It is a post-mortem. It is a field report from a man who stood in the rooms where decisions are made and realized that the rules we are taught in public are not the rules that are practiced in private. He saw power as it functions when no one is watching. When you read his words today, you will feel a sharp, cold discomfort. Most people call that moral outrage. They're lying to themselves. It's not outrage. It's the sound of a childhood illusion shattering. You were raised on a diet of fairy tales. You were told that the world is a meritocracy. You were told that if you are nice, the world will be nice to you. Machiavelli is the one who tells you that you've been lied to. He is the mirror you are afraid to look into, because he shows you that your goodness is often just a mask for your helplessness. Before we go any further, you need to swallow a very bitter pill. There is a dangerous confusion in our modern world between being good and being naive. Most people think they are virtuous simply because they haven't done anything wrong. That isn't virtue. That is a lack of opportunity. If you are harmless, you aren't a good person. You are just a victim in waiting. A sheep isn't moral because it doesn't eat the wolf. A sheep is just a sheep. True virtue, the kind that actually changes the world, requires you to have the teeth of a wolf and the strength of a lion, but the restraint to use them only when necessary. If you don't understand how power works, if you refuse to look at the hidden laws of human nature, you aren't keeping your hands clean. You are just making it easier for someone else to get theirs dirty at your expense. Being naive isn't a badge of honor. It is a death sentence in an environment that doesn't care about your feelings. You aren't a good person because you ignore the game. You are just a person who is easy to exploit. If you want to stop being the collateral damage in someone else's rise to the top, you have to stop looking at the world as you wish it were. You have to see it as it is: brutal, calculating, and entirely predictable. Machiavelli didn't want to make you a monster. He wanted to make sure you stopped being a target. It's time to stop playing by the rules of a game you've already lost and start understanding the code that is actually running the room. Is it better to be loved than feared, or feared than loved? It's the most famous question Machiavelli ever asked, and most of you are answering it wrong. You've been conditioned to believe that fear is a dirty word. You think it means being a bully, shouting in hallways, or making people tremble. It doesn't. In the world of power, fear is just another word for consequence. Machiavelli understood that love is a volatile currency. It's a gift given by others, and they can take it back the moment it becomes inconvenient for them. But fear is something you control. Look at the leaders around you. You can divide them into 3 categories. First, there is the likable leader. This is the person who wants the office to feel like a family. They want to be your friend. They want to be liked. But look closer. Because they are obsessed with their image, they delay hard decisions. They tolerate mediocrity because they're afraid of hurting feelings. This person is the most selfish person in the room. They prioritize their own comfort over the success of the mission. They are a liability. Then, there is the hated leader. This is the tyrant, the hypocrite, the one who changes the rules based on their mood and punishes people for their own mistakes. Machiavelli warned against this. To be hated is to be vulnerable. It invites sabotage. It guarantees a knife in the back the moment you trip. It is a stupid way to rule. But then, there is the third option, the Machiavellian. Think back to that one boss you had, the one you didn't necessarily want to grab a beer with, the one who was tough. They never accepted good enough. They held you to a standard that made you sweat. You felt the pressure every time they walked into the room. But look at your career now. You learned more from that person in 6 months than you did in 3 years of working for a nice boss. You didn't love them, but you respected the consequences of failing them. That is the fear Machiavelli is talking about. It isn't terror. It is the absolute certainty that standards will be met or the price will be paid. It is the only force that builds empires. But authority is a blunt instrument if you don't know how to use it. This leads us to the second weapon in your arsenal, the lion and the fox. Machiavelli said a leader must be a lion to drive away the wolves, but a fox to recognize the traps. The lion is raw power. The fox is raw intellect. If you are only a lion, you will blunter into a snare. If you are only a fox, you will be eaten by the first wolf that finds you. Let's bring this into your world. Imagine you are in a salary negotiation. Most people lose this fight because they only bring one animal to the table. If you are just a lion, you walk in and demand more money because you deserve it. You're aggressive. You're rigid. You think volume equals victory. The person across from you smiles, nods, and then traps you in a corporate policy you didn't see coming. You've lost before you even sat down. If you are just a fox, you spend months maneuvering. You drop hints. You try to be indispensable. You wait for them to notice. But because you have no lion in you, they see your cunning as weakness. They know you won't actually leave. They know you won't bite. So they give you a title change and no raise. The Machiavellian plays it differently. You play the fox first. You study the person across from you. Why are they really saying no? Is it the budget, or is it their own ego? You read the room. You find the hidden path to their yes. But once you find that path, you bring out the lion. You state your number. You don't justify it. You don't stutter. You make it clear that you are the wolf slayer they cannot afford to lose. Most of you are trapped. You are either too soft, all fox, no bite, or you are too rigid, all lion, no vision. You are being hunted by people who know how to switch masks. If you don't learn to do the same, you aren't a player in this game. You are just a piece on the board. Which one do you want to be? Most of you have a soft, Sunday school definition of the word, virtue. You think it means being a good person. You think it means waiting your turn and hoping for the best. In Machiavelli's world, that version of virtue is a suicide note. To Machiavelli, virtue wasn't about morality. It was about the cold, hard will to act before the storm hits. It was the raw ability to look at the horizon, see the disaster coming, and strike first. Most people don't fail because they are blind. They fail because they are waiting. They wait for more information. They wait for the right time. They wait for certainty. But in the game of power, by the time you are certain, the opportunity is already dead. Blockbuster saw Netflix coming. They didn't lack the money to compete. They lacked the will. They waited. Kodak invented the digital camera. Then they put it in a drawer because they wanted to protect their film business. They waited. They didn't lack intelligence. They lacked the Machiavellian virtue to kill their own past before it killed them. Now, look at your own life. You know that job is a dead end. You've known it for a year. But you tell yourself you'll wait another 6 months. You tell yourself you're being patient or loyal. You aren't. You're being a target. Machiavelli would look at you and see a person who has already surrendered to fate. True virtue is the refusal to wait. It is the person who starts building their escape hatch while the ship is still floating. It is the employee who stays up until 2 a.m. learning a high-income skill while their current role is still stable. They aren't heroes. They just refuse to give up their agency to luck. Luck is for the weak. Virtue is for those who decide the outcome before the coin is even tossed. But why is it so hard for you to act? Because you are likely trapped in the most comfortable cage ever designed, the yes man culture. Let's be honest. Are you a yes man? Don't answer too quickly. Every time you sat in a meeting, saw a strategy that you knew was flawed, and kept your mouth shut to keep the peace, you were a yes man. Every time you laughed at a joke that wasn't funny, or nodded along with a boss you didn't respect, you were a yes man. You tell yourself you're being a team player. You aren't. You're being a tool. You are trading your integrity for a temporary sense of safety. And it's not entirely your fault. Your environment has trained you. It has taught you that agreement is safer than being right. It has conditioned you to believe that harmony is the goal of a workplace. This is a behavioral trap. The most dangerous rooms in the world are the ones where everyone is nodding. Real performance doesn't come from harmony. It comes from friction. Psychological safety, the concept pioneered by Harvard's Amy Edmondson, isn't about everyone being nice to each other. It's about creating a space where it is safe to be wrong, where it is safe to disagree, where the truth is more important than the ego of the person at the head of the table. The elite teams, the ones that actually win, don't hire echoes. They hire weapons. If you are in a room where everyone agrees with the leader, you aren't in a team. You're in a funeral procession. You've been taught that being a yes man is the path to the top. But look at the people who actually stay there. They don't want more people to tell them they're right. They want people who can stop them from being wrong. Until you find the courage to be the only person in the room who says no, you will never be a leader. You will always be ammunition for someone else's gun. You are being used to fuel a machine you don't control, all because you're afraid of a little friction. Machiavelli understood that the greatest threat to a prince isn't an enemy army. It's the circle of flatterers who make him feel safe while the walls are closing in. Are you a flatterer? Or are you a force? You have to decide if you want to be liked or if you want to be effective, because in the real world, you rarely get to be both. Are you willing to stop being safe and start being right? The end justifies the means. It is the most dangerous sentence in the history of power. It is the ultimate escape hatch for the conscience, the phrase used to wash the blood off the hands of every tyrant, every corrupt CEO, and every ambitious climber who ever stepped over a colleague to get a promotion. Everyone knows the phrase. Everyone claims to hate it. And yet, in the quiet moments of the day, everyone uses it. But here is the reality you don't want to face. In the high-stakes game of reality, there is no referee. There is no divine judge standing over your shoulder at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday when you have to choose between a lie and a loss. We spend our lives arguing about the ends. Was the profit worth the pollution? Was the survival of the company worth the betrayal of the partner? We debate the morality of the goal as if that's the hard part. It isn't. The real question, the one that will keep you awake at night long after the money is spent, is this. Who are you to decide that the end is worth it for everyone else? When you choose a dirty means, you aren't just making a tactical decision. You are playing God with other people's lives. Take a look at a situation happening in office buildings all over the world right now. A manager knows his department is in trouble. He knows the budget is collapsing and that layoffs are inevitable in 3 months. But he doesn't say a word. Instead, he stands in a team meeting, looks his staff in the eyes, and tells them their jobs are secure. He encourages them to stay focused. He watches as a young designer on his team signs a 30-year mortgage on a new house, knowing full well she might be unemployed by Christmas. He tells himself he's being noble. He says he's preventing unnecessary panic or preserving morale for the sake of the collective. He uses the Machiavellian logic to justify his silence. But let's strip away the polished language and look at the skeleton underneath. Is he protecting the team? Or is he protecting his own comfort? He's afraid of the awkward conversations. He's afraid of the drop in productivity. He's afraid of the mess that the truth creates. So, he lies. He is engaged in what psychologists call moral disengagement. He has successfully rebranded a selfish act of cowardice as a selfless act of leadership. This is how the worst atrocities start. Not with a monster wanting to do evil, but with a good person deciding that their specific goal justifies a specific deception. You do this too. You withhold information to protect a friend. You exaggerate a metric to help the department. You hide a mistake to save the project. You tell yourself you're being a prince. Machiavelli would tell you you're being a fool, because once you cross that line, the line disappears forever. You think ethics is a stone wall, a boundary that you either cross or you don't. You are wrong. The reality is much more terrifying. Ethical boundaries are not a line in the sand. They are not a static rule book that you can consult when things get difficult. They are a question. A sharp, uncomfortable question you must ask yourself every single day. Am I using this means to achieve a greater good? Or am I just using the greater good as a shield for my own ego? If you cannot answer that honestly, you aren't a leader. You're a hazard. Most people think they are good, simply because they have never been tested. They sit on the sidelines and judge the people in the arena for the choices they make. But virtue isn't the absence of sin, it's the presence of awareness. Machiavelli didn't want you to be heartless. He wanted you to be honest about your own heart. He wanted you to realize that every time you justify a means, you are taking a loan out against your soul. And the interest rate on that loan is higher than you can ever afford to pay back. You think you can just do one bad thing for a good reason and then go back to being a saint. You can't. The game changes you. The means define you long before you ever reach the end. So, look at your current means. Look at the secrets you're keeping. Look at the shortcuts you're taking. Look at the white lies you're telling to keep the peace. Are they weapons of survival? Or are they the weights that are going to sink you? The mirror doesn't lie. But you do. You have to decide where your enough is. Because if you don't set the boundary now, while the stakes are low, you won't even recognize the person looking back at you when the stakes are high. Power doesn't make you a monster. It just gives you the permission to finally be the monster you've been hiding all along. The question isn't whether you will use the means. You will. We all do. The question is, who is actually making the decision? The leader you want to be, or the coward you're afraid to admit you are? Think about that, because as we move into the next principle, the game gets even more personal. The office isn't just a place of work, it's a battlefield of mirrors, and you're about to see a version of yourself you've spent your whole life trying to ignore. Your office is not a family. It is the most expensive lie you will ever buy. They use the word family to weaponize your loyalty. They use it to make you feel guilty for leaving at 5 p.m., for asking for a raise, or for daring to have a life that doesn't revolve around their quarterly targets. A family doesn't fire you because of a strategic pivot. A family doesn't replace you in 2 weeks with a cheaper version. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He knew that any organization is not a circle of friends. It is an ecosystem of competing ambitions. And once you strip away the polite language and the Friday happy hours, you are left with one brutal reality. Ambition is the engine, and rivalry is the fuel. Have you ever noticed how your manager seems to praise you and your closest colleague at the same time, but in a way that feels like a silent challenge? Or how 2 teams are given the same goal, but only enough resources for one to succeed? You aren't imagining it. You are being managed. A smart leader knows that absolute harmony is the death of progress. If everyone is comfortable, no one is pushing. So, they orchestrate healthy competition. They turn the office into a gladiator pit, but they call it striving for excellence. The question is, when you realize you are in that pit, what do you do? Do you play along, or do you find the exit? Most people choose a third, more dangerous path. They stay, but they pretend the game isn't happening. They become bitter. They see their colleagues' promotion as a personal insult. They let envy eat them from the inside out, turning their workplace into a mental prison. Machiavelli had a different view of envy. He didn't see it as a sin to be suppressed. He saw it as a signal. Envy is a compass. It is your subconscious mind pointing at something and saying, "I want that." When you feel that sting in your chest because someone else got the lead on a project you wanted, don't hide it. Don't feel ashamed of it. Study it. Envy tells you exactly where your ambition is currently focused. It identifies your gaps. It shows you the terrain you haven't conquered yet. The problem isn't the envy itself, it's what you do with it. Do you use it as ammunition to improve your own position, or do you use it as poison to sabotage someone else? One makes you a player, the other makes you a victim. Understanding this reality actually makes you a kinder person. Why? Because you stop taking things personally. When a colleague plays the game to get ahead, you don't have to hate them. You don't have to feel betrayed. You simply recognize that they are acting according to their own nature and their own ambition. You stop expecting the office to be a place of emotional support and start seeing it for what it is, a professional arena. And in an arena, you can respect your opponent without needing to be their brother. But here is the twist. While you are busy analyzing your boss, your colleagues, and your rivals, you are missing the most important piece of information. You are looking at the chessboard, but you forgot to check where you are standing. You are not the CEO. You are not the one moving the pieces. You are not the prince in this story, at least not yet. So, which side of the board are you actually on? Are you a player who understands the moves, or are you just a pawn being sacrificed to protect someone else's queen? Most of you are currently being moved by forces you don't even see. You are following a script you didn't write, playing for a prize you won't get to keep. You think you are making choices. But who wrote the list of options you're choosing from? If you want to stop being a piece and start being a player, You have to realize that the rules have changed. We are no longer just dealing with human rivals in a physical office. The game has moved. It's scaled. It's become invisible. The prince of today doesn't use swords. He uses systems. And those systems are watching you right now. You think you are the architect of your own life. You think every decision you made today, what you bought, what you watched, who you argued with online, was an act of free will. It wasn't. You are following a script, and you didn't write it. Machiavelli dreamed of a world where a prince could know the heart of every subject, where he could predict their moves before they even made them. He wanted to control the flow of information so perfectly that the people would never even realize they were being led. In the 16th century, that was a fantasy. Today, it is a line of code. You think you're deciding, but who is actually writing the script for your choices? Think about the last time you felt a sudden, urgent need for something. A new pair of shoes, a specific political opinion, a sense of outrage at a stranger on the other side of the world. You think that thought started in your brain. It didn't. It was planted there. We live in the most perfect execution of Machiavellian power in human history. The prince of the 21st century doesn't wear a crown, doesn't live in a palace. It lives in a server farm. It is the algorithm. Machiavelli's core principle was that the prince must be a fox to recognize the traps. But the algorithm is a fox that has been fed the data of 4 billion lives. It knows your insecurities better than your therapist. It knows your political triggers better than your spouse. It knows exactly how long to keep you scrolling to ensure you stay profitable. And here is the twist. The algorithm doesn't just reflect who you are. It defines who you become. If you see enough of the same content, your brain begins to treat it as objective reality. If you are shown enough of the same enemy, you begin to hate them on command. This is the ultimate version of Machiavellian information control. It is being executed at scale, every second, on every screen, for billions of people. You aren't a user. You are a data point being optimized. You are being nudged toward decisions that serve someone else's bottom line, all while you pat yourself on the back for being an independent thinker. But before you sink into despair, you need to understand why this is happening. You need to understand the hardware you're running. Your brain is designed to obey, and it is not your fault. For 99% of human history, survival depended on staying with the tribe. If you disagreed with the group, you were exiled. If you were exiled, you died. So, evolution wired your brain to seek social validation. It gave you the amygdala to scan for threats and a dopamine system to reward you for belonging. The architects of the digital world know this. They have weaponized your own biology against you. When you get a notification, that's a dopamine hit. When you see a like, that's social validation. When you see a headline that makes you angry, that is your amygdala being hijacked. You feel like you're engaging with the world, but you're actually just a laboratory rat pressing a lever for a pellet. Your brain is a legacy system trying to survive in a high-tech jungle. It is literally designed to seek the path of least resistance, to follow the herd, to obey the loudest voice, to stay inside the filter bubble, where everything is safe and familiar. This isn't a flaw in your character. It is a feature of your species. But here is the cold reality. The people who run these systems, the modern princes, they don't have this problem. They don't let their own amygdalas be hijacked. They don't scroll. They build. They understand that the masses are governed by their instincts, while the elite are governed by their interests. While you are getting angry at a post, they are collecting the data on your anger and selling it to the highest bidder. Machiavelli said that the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. Most of you are lions being led into a digital trap. You think you are powerful because you have a voice on social media. You think you are part of the conversation. You aren't. You are the product being sold in a room you aren't invited to. The prince is no longer a person. It is a system. And the system is designed to keep you in a state of constant, low-level anxiety, because an anxious person is easy to distract. A distracted person is easy to lead. And a person who is led is a person who never asks, who is actually benefiting from my life? Until you recognize that your own biology is being used as a weapon against you, you will never be free. You will continue to make choices that were pre-selected for you. You will continue to fight wars that were started for profit. You think you are the hero of your own story, but in the eyes of the system, you are just a battery. It's time to stop being a source of power for a machine that doesn't care about you. It's time to recognize the script so you can finally start writing your own. This was never about teaching you how to play dirty. It was about teaching you how to see the board. Most people walk through their lives in a state of moral sleep. They believe that if they follow the rules, the world will reward them. They believe that being nice is a strategy for success. And when they get passed over for a promotion, or when their business is crushed by a competitor, they blame bad luck or the system. They never realize that they weren't even playing the game. They were just the terrain the game was played on. Imagine a room. In the center sits a chessboard. One person is sitting there, calculating 5 moves ahead, understanding the value of every sacrifice and the power of every position. The other person doesn't even know they are a pawn. They are just standing on a square, waiting for something to happen. The difference between those two people isn't morality. It isn't that one is evil and the other is good. The difference is awareness. Awareness is the only true armor you have in this world. You can spend your entire life being a good person in a world you don't understand, and all it will get you is a front row seat to your own exploitation. Or you can choose to wake up. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince for the monsters. The monsters already know how the world works. He wrote it for the people who were tired of being victims. He wrote it for the people who realized that you cannot defend a city if you don't know where the gates are. You've just been given the keys to those gates. You've seen the 7 principles that run every boardroom, every office, and every algorithm that dictates your reality. You now understand that fear is just a standard of consequence. You understand that virtue is the will to act before you are forced to. You understand that the office, family, is a behavioral cage designed to keep you compliant. So, what are you going to do with this ammunition? Most of you will leave this video and do nothing. You will tell yourself that this is too cynical. You will go back to your comfortable illusions. You will choose the safety of the pawn because the weight of being a player is too heavy. And that is your choice to make. But do not complain when the hand moves you. Do not act surprised when you are sacrificed for someone else's win. But for a few of you, the lens has already shifted. You are already looking at your boss differently. You are looking at your phone differently. You are looking at your own niceness and seeing the cowardice that was hiding underneath it. You are starting to realize that you have a choice. You can continue to believe that the world operates according to the fairy tales you were taught in school. Or you can start seeing it as it actually is, a high-stakes arena of influence and control. Both are choices, but only one of them is a conscious choice. The game is going to be played whether you participate or not. The laws are going to be applied whether you know them or not. The only question is whether you are going to be the one moving the pieces or the one being wiped off the board. I want you to take a long, hard look at your current situation, your job, your relationships, your digital life, Out of the 7 principles we just covered, which one did you realize is being applied to you right now without you even knowing it? Which law of power are you currently a victim of? Think about it. Write it down. Because once you name the game, you stop being a piece. You start becoming a player. The board is set. The clock is ticking. Will you go back to sleep? Or is it time for you to finally start playing?